Let me tell you a story. It's about what happened to me at age 57. This is 11 years ago. I found out I had the arteries of a 73-year-old, 16 years older than me. I had no idea. I thought I was like this close to the kind of heart attack. You know, heart attacks, 50% of them have no symptoms until, boom, you're dead. And it's like, that really upset me because I thought I was the picture of health. I ran marathons. I avoided eating fats, which, again, both of these things we thought at the time to be the best practices for heart health. And still that test said I was walking around with a ticking time bomb in my chest. But here's the thing. I didn't quit. I fought back. After a year, I turned those arteries into the arteries of a 52-year-old. Now look at this. This is the most advanced heart scan in the world at this point in time. And it shows my dangerous plaque is basically gone. That means my risk for a sudden heart attack right now is practically zero. If you've ever been told it's too late or that you just have to live waiting for a heart attack, that's not true. This video will prove otherwise. I'll show you exactly how I reversed decades of arterial plaque, avoided a heart attack, and how you can do that. A plumbing problem that only happens in the heart. It's a metabolic problem. So that's why if you've got plaque in one place, you've got it in the others. Metabolic meaning how your body burns fuels. By the way, if you want to take a deep dive into metabolic health, you need to get my ebook. It's free, so you can just download it. Click the link below. Now, when that CIMT result came back at 1.2 millimeters, I knew I was in trouble. I was frustrated, like I said, and I was pretty emotional. For context, 1 millimeter or less is ideal. Over that, and you're in a little bit of a danger zone. But the worst part is, based on the amount of plaque detected in my arteries, my arterial age came back as 73 years old, 16 years older than what I actually was. For a couple of weeks, I was frustrated and angry, but mostly just frustrated. Then I thought, maybe I wasn't doing everything wrong, despite some of the shortcomings of my lifestyle, and I needed to change some things. But I was still doing better than a lot of folks. It wasn't like, if I had done nothing, I could have weighed 300 pounds plus. I could have had a whole bunch of body fat that was creating this problem. At least I had some things going for me. The other thing that occurred to me is, yes, had I not done those lifestyle issues, activities, I could have already had a heart attack. I could already be dead. So I began to see the other side of this. Once I got past that shock, I knew I had things to do, though. The first thing I did was look for the cause. I ran an oral glucose tolerance test where you drink a set amount of glucose, either 75 or 100 grams, depending on the context of the test that you're doing, or the format. You want to see how your blood sugar responds over time. Mine spiked to over 160. Already it was clear, you get spikes over 160, and those are the times when you can be forming plaque. It meant I had enough prediabetes to cause plaque, even though I'd never been told I was diabetic. That was the turning point, by step. So you can start bringing your own numbers down. The first and most important change was diet. I stopped thinking of food as low fat or low calorie, and I started thinking of it in terms of blood sugar impact. I began testing my blood sugar after meals, and if it pushed me over 140, it didn't stay on the menu, no matter how healthy the label claimed it was. So one of the first big surprises for me was no more oatmeal for breakfast. That jacked my blood sugar. It meant cutting breads mostly. As I said, I didn't eat a lot of pastas before, but I ate a lot of breads. Rice, I had developed a taste for rice. And as I mentioned, oatmeal. Couldn't believe it. But that's what the blood sugars, that's what they told me. So instead, I built my meals around foods that kept my blood sugar stable. I replaced those carbs with healthy fats, moderate protein, and plenty of vegetables that didn't cause a spike. Over time, I experimented with different eating styles. I've tried versions of carnivore, keto, paleo, and plant-heavy low-carb. No matter the variation, the common theme was always the same. Keep the carbs low and avoid the processed junk, and avoid blood sugar spikes. For healthy fats, I leaned on things like avocado, extra virgin olive oil, and fatty fish like salmon and mackerel. I didn't shy away from natural saturated fats either. Real butter, not margarine, and yes, even bacon. I went back to bacon, which I had not eaten in decades because it was high fat. Butter too. So I went back to butter and bacon, and that was nice. A breakfast of eggs fried in butter with avocado on the side. That kept me satisfied for hours, and it didn't change, and that was exercise. I used to think the key to heart health was endless cardio, long runs, marathons, long bike rides, hours and hours of that level 2 steady state work. I ran half marathons weekly, sometimes twice a week. Marathons I ran, about a half dozen organized marathons, but many marathons in training. Here's the truth I learned. Long distance cardio isn't bad. It's not the most efficient way, though, to protect your arteries or reverse plaque. What really matters is improving your metabolic health. And the fastest way to do that is by building and using muscles, especially in your legs. Your leg muscles are your largest safety valve against insulin resistance and metabolic disease. When you engage those big muscles, you pull sugar out of your bloodstream and into your muscle cells, where it's safe. You're lowering your blood sugar and insulin levels quickly. So I shifted my training. Instead of logging 10 or 15 miles at a time, I started doing short, intense bursts, high-intensity interval training, HIIT, and in my recovery. And that meant getting serious about sleep and stress management. For years, I treated sleep as optional. You're not conscious. It's sort of like wasted time, right? I'd stay up late, I'd work, I'd get up early and go run. And I told myself I was just one of those people who could get by on 5 or 6 hours of sleep. Sometimes I'd wake up at 3 in the morning and couldn't go back to sleep. Now, the truth is, poor sleep is a stressor. It raises your cortisol, it spikes your blood sugar, and drives inflammation. They'll do sleep studies on people, and people may say, oh, I slept just fine. But you see some things on the sleep study that said, it wasn't perfect. For the next 48 hours, these people will have increased insulin resistance. So good sleep is far more important than you might think, and certainly more important than I treated it. Cortisol, if you don't get enough good sleep, you're starting to push your cortisol, and that spikes your blood sugar, drives inflammation, all of which feed plaque growth. One problem that I discovered was that I had mild sleep apnea. My high, narrow dental arch crowded my teeth, and more importantly, it pushed my tongue back into my airway while I slept. So if I was sleeping on my back, my tongue, as I got older, my tongue just started going back there more often. It would wake me up, and I wouldn't even notice it. I wouldn't notice what woke me up. That meant I was waking up dozens of times in a night without even realizing it. I addressed that with braces, Invisalign braces. They widened my arches, and it really helped. But it wasn't the only thing. I had to train myself to sleep on my side instead of on my back. That was challenging, but that one change improved my oxygen levels, lowered my blood pressure, and left me feeling more rested. Stress was the other piece. I'd been going full throttle for decades. To me, a high level of stress was a natural thing. And I had tried things like meditating and slowing my breath, and they didn't really seem to help, so I just said heck with it. Now, chronic stress keeps you in fight or flight and keeps your body in a low-grade inflammatory state. It keeps that cortisol growing. I needed a way to break that cycle every day, and that's when I started practicing slow, controlled breathing. Not just taking a deep breath, but actually slowing my breathing rate down to half of normal. The normal 15 to 20 breaths. We're not talking about going to 12 breaths per minute. We're talking about going to 7 to 10 perspective. From a geek perspective, this kind of breathing increases carbon dioxide slightly. That opens up blood vessels in your brain and body, and it stimulates your vagus nerve, the switch that turns on your rest and repair mode. Rest and digest, rest and repair. Here's where I learned that really slow breathing rate. A group called Respirate sent me one of their devices to try. You put a strap around your belly, and you have some earplugs in, and it tells you how quickly, it coaches you on how quickly you should inhale and how slowly you should exhale and how often to repeat. And that's when I thought, oh my gosh, no wonder my slowed breathing in the past really never helped. I wasn't slowing it down enough. You can do this without any kind of biofeedback gadget like respirate. Just sit or lie down. Inhale slowly for 4 or 5 seconds. Exhale slowly for 6 to 8 seconds. And repeat, just doing that same thing for 10 minutes. You'll feel a big difference just with that alone. Sleep and stress control, which I didn't have based on my results. So I decided to do something better than calcium score. I went straight to the coronary CT angiogram, but not just any traditional angiogram. I got the newest type of CT angiogram, and it's the one that uses AI analysis. This is the best available test to identify both soft, unstable, and hard calcified plaque in the arteries of the heart. I got mine done with a company called Clearly, but we work with other companies too. There's another one called HeartFlow as well. Enough talk about the process. You want to see my results? So when I opened the report, 3 headlines jumped off the page. First, soft plaque volume, 0.1 cubic millimeters. That was a relief. In practical terms, that means I have virtually no unstable plaque in my heart right now. Second, total plaque volume, 75.6 cubic millimeters, with a stable calcified portion at 31. The rest is higher density, non-calcified plaque. It's stable when you manage your metabolism. And that may be getting a little bit too technical. Here's the translation: very little total plaque and almost none of the dangerous kind. So, those are the 2 mentioned. So, to me, supplements should fill gaps in your diet that you can't cover with diet, support your specific needs, and be backed by evidence. One of the first supplements I added was vitamin D3, around 5,000 international units per day. Low vitamin D levels are linked to increased inflammation, higher cardiovascular risk, and poorer immune function. That didn't take D3 alone. I took vitamin K2 as well, about 400 micrograms daily, because K2 helps direct calcium into bones and teeth, not into artery walls where it can contribute to calcification. But more importantly, it has some role in improving insulin resistance. I predict that's going to be shown as the research continues. There's already a couple of studies out there indicating that. Another supplement that I used to take is niacin, mostly due to low HDL. Niacin is one of the few supplements, it's actually the only thing supplement or medication-wise, that can increase HDL, decrease LDL, decrease triglycerides, and most importantly, decrease Lp(a). I also take magnesium, and not just one form of magnesium. I take magnesium L-threonate, which is great for brain health and for sleep, while magnesium glycinate supports muscle function and relaxation. Magnesium is involved in over 300 processes in the body, and it plays a role in blood pressure and insulin sensitivity, both critical for keeping plaque stable or preventing plaque entirely. Now, although I eat a lot of fish, I do supplement with some additional omega-3 fatty acids. The combination of EPA and DHA, 2 of the most important omega-3 fatty acids. That combination is proven time and time again to provide significant benefits to lower cardiovascular risk. There are other supplements I do take, especially from time to time, like aged garlic extract and nattokinase, both of which have evidence showing impact on arterial plaque. Oh, and here it is. Purpose. I've done videos on that, and the videos admittedly are just not that popular. People think that's just woo-woo fishy stuff. Purpose is not woo-woo fishy stuff. When I got that first CIM2 scan and I saw arteries of a 73-year-old at age 57, for me, it scared me. But the truth is, fear alone doesn't keep you going. For me, my purpose was twofold. First, I wanted to be around, not just alive, but healthy, for the people I love. Second, I wanted to turn my own wake-up call into something that could help other people avoid a heart attack, stroke, blindness, kidney disease, erectile dysfunction, cardiovascular disease, the vascular part of cardiovascular disease. That's why I shared these scans, these numbers, and the steps I took. I know what it feels like to think it's too late, and I know the relief of realizing it's not.